Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the Three Topics Gamer, here to share with you another episode of my weekly Q&A topic people's questions or answer a series of questions that were sent to me over the past week. This episode is going to be relatively short. We didn't get too many questions. I mean, I guess it's understandable. I guess maybe people are still trying to get into, being used to sending in questions or sending good ones, or maybe having hard times coming up with good ones. But I did get maybe 8 questions or comments. However, 4 or 5 of them I was able to answer in the comment sections because they just weren't really questions I felt I could answer in the video. They were one sentence questions, but I did get 3 of them, so I guess that's what I'll have to work with for this particular episode. So, like always, if you do happen to enjoy this little Q&A, like always, make sure you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep track of me on all my future episodes, and make sure if you guys have any questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, make sure you type them in the comments down below. But starting with this particular episode, the first question comes from Zach Tarf, and you want to know, I know you haven't seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which you're right, I haven't seen it, but would you consider seeing it since it brought back Professor Xavier, and they even got the actor from Patrick Stewart from, not the one who played the young, no, this scene, okay, I know what you're talking about, and it was stupid. I have not seen this movie, but I have seen enough clips to know that this is not a good movie. I mean, let me get this straight. You bring in the Illuminati just to kill them off in 3 minutes. And what, Professor Xavier gets his neck snapped when he's trying to mind screw with Scarlet Witch? I mean, why'd you even bring him back? Patrick Stewart looked tight. Do not bring that man back, please. I mean, this is the 3rd time we've killed off his character. So, if this is supposed to be, if this is an example of how Disney plans to treat the X-Men franchise, this is why I want nothing to do with what they do with X-Men. X-Men, I'm strictly a fan of Fox's X-Men. No, it wasn't perfect, and sure, it had a few movies that were just downright garbage, but they typically always knocked it out of the park or hit a home run more times than not, which is why I'm still a much bigger fan of those films than I've ever been from MCU films. And I have no interest in seeing that. The last one I saw was Infinity War. And once I saw that, I was like, I don't even need to see Endgame because I already know what's going to happen. And lo and behold, that movie played out exactly as I knew it had to play out. It was so predictable, and now the MCU is going in all different types of directions that I've no interest in them. I'm done with MCU. I will never watch another MCU movie again. I'm done. Next question comes from Artist Gant, and you want to know, which gameplay style do I prefer between both God of War series? The old ones or the recent game? Definitely the older ones. I mean, I like the introduction of a lot of RPG elements and a much more grounded gameplay, and actually having a companion to fight alongside you. But yeah, I think the older style is definitely better, much more fast paced. I think the action set pieces are definitely better than what we got in God of War 4. And I think even from what I've seen from God of War 5 Ragnarok, it doesn't seem like it can be a massive improvement. The gameplay style of the original set of God of War games, there was generally a solid amount of progression. So by the time that gameplay style had really been perfected, this, I'm still trying to get used to it. I mean, it works just fine. It works fine. In fact, it ended up working better than I had expected. I didn't think I'd end up enjoying the newer gameplay style as much as I have. But just from what I've seen from Ragnarok, I can't imagine seeing it have a major amount of improvement in the gameplay style department. There was a massive improvement in terms of gameplay style between God of War 1 and 2, but I don't think we're going to see as much of an improvement between God of Wars 4 and 5. But it's still great, but overall I would still prefer the older style than what we have now. And the last question of the episode comes from the Batman of Neo Gotham, and you want to know, if I were to continue making versus series matchups and did an episode with Ezio from Assassin's Creed Revelations versus Shay Cormac, who would I have picked as the winner for that fight and why? Oh boy, I really hate doing versus questions, but if I did that matchup, it would still be Shay Cormac. Shay Cormac would destroy Ezio. The problem with Ezio by that point is he is The way I say it is he is the quintessential assassin. Everything he does, everything he did over the course of his life was always to follow the assassin book. Shay Cormac's entire approach to combat is designed to neutralize everything an assassin will throw at him. He doesn't. Ezio really doesn't have much creativity in terms of how he executes his kills. He's pretty straightforward, and therefore, against someone like Shay Cormac, he would be very, very predictable. The reason why I would say someone like Edward Kenway or maybe Connor Kenway, more so Edward Kenway, would have the best odds. I'm not saying they would win. That's still a matchup that if I ever did do, I really have to do some deep digging. But the reason why I would say those two probably have the best odds of really taking down Shay is because those are not typical assassins. They went in with a pre-established approach to combat and simply molded the ways of the assassins to work for them. Ezio was formed into an assassin to follow the rules the way that they were supposed to be. Someone like Edward and Connor, they made the assassin ways work for them. They chose aspects of the assassins and applied it to their own approach. Therefore, they made a hybrid variation, and therefore there's elements of that combat style that Shay probably will not be as familiar. I'm not saying he won't be able to adapt to them, but he would have a much harder time dealing with those two than someone like Ezio, who has followed the assassin formula to the T. And that's exactly what you don't want to do against the greatest assassin killer in the Templar Order's history. I mean, I've said this multiple times. You can put an argument for Ezio being the greatest assassin. What isn't up for dispute is that Shay Cormac, without question, is the greatest assassin killer in the history of the Templar Order. And he would pretty much dominate just about anyone who followed the assassin way to the T. And that's exactly what Ezio is. He does it more than almost any other person who was in the assassin order. He followed it to the letter and didn't go off the path and try to make it his own. He just followed it and he mastered it to its highest possible level. But the problem is that Shay Cormac did that, but made sure everything he did was meant to counter, neutralize, and defeat anyone who followed the assassin way. Which is why I still think that Shay would definitely take down any version of Ezio. And that about does it for this episode. Remember, if you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, you know where to send them. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you all next week.